Once again, I thank everyone for joining the Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call today. Let us move on to the next session, which is Srimad Bhagavatam class. May I know who all have joined this morning?
हरे कृष्ण पद्म सखी माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम शिला प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय प्रीतिदासी फ्रॉम शार्लोट हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna Priti Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Arvind Das from Chicago. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Arvind Daksh Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much Prabhuji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mata ji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. This is Shivani from Ashram Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Shivani Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Sakhi Mataji, all Vaishnava Prabhupada and Guru Maharajis. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Ram.
Hare Krishna Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah, go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to the assembled devotees. Yashomati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna Yashomati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna Padmasaki Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining every day. Beautiful chanting and beautiful work. It's always beautiful to see. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padmasaki Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, and all glories to assembled devotees. This is Radha from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna Radha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Sakhi Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Hare Krishna. This is Aditi Devi Dasi from Canada.
Hare Krishna Aditi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Is there anybody else who would like to introduce?
Hare Krishna Padmasaki Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karuna Devi Dasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna Indulekha Karuna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padmasaki Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. This is Megha from Naperville. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Megha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Varsha from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna Varsha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all the devotees. This is Sushmita from Canada.
Hare Krishna Shrita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining the call Mataji. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj and the assembled devotees. This is Shiromani Nandarani Devidasi from Qatar. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Shiromani Nandarani Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining the call. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call once again. Today we are fortunate to have His Grace Baladev Prabhu to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 21st chapter, verse number 17 and 18. Hare Krishna Baladev Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Mataji's Prabhu on the call.
Mataji, Prabhuji is not on the call. We can do introduction, I thought.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Baladev Prabhuji. Oh, so he's not there. Okay, before Prabhuji joins, would like to request Aditi Mataji to give a brief introduction about Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. This is a brief introduction for His Grace Baladev Prabhuji. His Grace Baladev Prabhu is a senior brahmachari at Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Temple, ISKCON, Chowpatty. He is a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Prabhuji was born in a devotee family. Academically, he has a bachelor's degree in physics. He worked for some time before dedicating his life full-time in service of Srila Prabhupada's mission. Prabhuji is spearheading the preaching initiatives for the ISKCON Youth Services that trains thousands of young students in the science of Krishna consciousness. He is also involved in innumerable other services like serving on the Yatra Committee and leading book distribution services for ISKCON Chowpatty. He is a counselor, a mentor, and a guide to many devotees. He also travels internationally to countries in the Africa and Central America continents to spread the message of Krishna consciousness. Over to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Baladev Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time and association to all of us this morning and enlightening us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Please take over the call, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Namo Mahamudanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 5th canto, 21st chapter, text number 17, 18 and 19. This is a prose verse. So I'll just read this verse. Tatha valakhilya rishayo angushta parvamatraha shashti sahasrani puratah suryam suktavakaya nyukta samstuvanti. There are translations and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There are 60,000 saintly persons named Vali Khilyas, each the size of a thumb, who are located in front of the sun god and who offer him eloquent prayers of glorification. Next verse. Translation. Similarly, 14 other saints, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, and demigods, who are divided into groups of 2, assume different names every month and continuously perform different ritualistic ceremonies to worship the Supreme Lord as the most powerful demigod Surya Dev, who holds many names. Purport. In the Vishnu Puran, it is said, Stuvanti Munaya Suryam Gandharvair Giyate Puraha Nrityanto Apsaroso Yanti Suryasyanu Nishachara Vahanti Pannaga Yakshai Kriyate Bhi Susangraha Vali Khilyas Tathai Vainam Parivarya Samasate Soyam Saptagana Surya Mandale Muni Sattama Himoshna Vari Vrishti Nam Hetutve Samayam Gataha. Worshipping the most powerful demigod Surya, the Gandharvas sing in front of him. The Apsaras dance before the chariot. The Nishacharas follow the chariot. The Pannagas decorate the chariot. The Yakshas guard the chariot. And the saints called Vali Khilyas surround the sun god and offer prayers. The 7 group of 14 associates arrange the proper times for regular snow, heat, and rain throughout the universe. The last verse of this chapter, 19th. My dear king, in his orbit through Bhumandala, the sun god traverses a distance of 95,100,000 yojanas, which is equal to 760,800,000 miles, at the speed of 2,000 yojanas and 2 kroshas, 16,004 miles in a moment. Hare Krishna. So we welcome all the devotees for this Bhakti Sangha class. And we are on the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Essentially, currently the universal aspect, the cosmos, what's the creation of the Lord is mentioned in this particular canto. And we can see here that we are going through a very technical aspect of the creation part of the Lord. In this particular verse, the glory of the sun god is mentioned here. Sun god or Surya Narayan. So we can see that when we see with our eyes, whatever we can see in the globe, sun rising and the sun setting, right? So we just see the sun globe, the burning globe. But here from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see that sun is not alone. The sun has his associates also. And this particular verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam mentions the associates of sun god. There are Apsaras, there are Kinnaras, the Pannagas, the Vali Khilyas, right? Rakshasas. And in this way, the sun gorgeously travels on his path. So, while the modern historians and the great researchers may be very proud of their achievement of research and finding out different locations and aspects of all planets. But this particular description, what Bhagavatam gives, will never be able to, the modern astronomers will not be able to find this out, because Basically, it's not accessible to us directly through our eyes or even through our telescopes. So the best part is to accept Vedas, Shruti. As we all know, that if you want to know about our Father, the scriptures mention the best thing is to ask from our mother. So here we're getting all the exact information of what's happening around and in the sun god very easily just by turning the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when this verse was shared to me by the organizers of Bhakti Sangha, I was just trying to analyze. I'm not a technical person like some devotees who come on the Bhakti Sangha. They have written books, right? Pavaneshwar Prabhu is one of them. He's written a book on cosmology. To discuss on cosmology is not an ordinary thing. So when this verse came to me and the purport was also given, I was wondering what should I speak on this sun god topic, because I have no understanding of Vali Khilias nor Apsaras dancing, Pannagas decorating the chariot, and Rakshasas, Yakshas around it. But then I realized that when we read through Srimad Bhagavatam and teachings of Srila Prabhupada, we get to know quite a bit of information about the sun. And while being in the ISKCON movement, many times we have read about some beautiful pastimes connected with sun. We have read about analogies of Krishna consciousness connected with sun. And we also read about so many beautiful information pages flowing through the pages of Bhagavatam and also through conversations of Srila Prabhupada. So with whatever little understanding I have, I collected some analogies today. I have collected some stories and some information pertaining to sun god, which I would like to share with all of you. So, yes. So in one place in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, so in today's topic, we will discuss first on the info of sun, which is given in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and other books of Srila Prabhupada. Second, we will discuss on the analogies of Krishna consciousness, which Prabhupada has used or the Bhagavatam has used compared to sun. That is second one. And third is we will read or go through some fascinating stories of sun god's connection with Krishna consciousness. So let's begin with the info part. So we see that how the sun is known to be evaporating water, right? Now, the place where I am currently in India, it's a very hot place. And we can see here that sun is so hot, just evaporates everything, not just water from outside, but even steals the water from the body. You would continuously drink water. The sun evaporates water. So the scriptures mentioned when the sun evaporates water, it is the moon which collects that water. And the moon, with the use of that water, it collects, it preserves some water as essence, and remaining water is formed into, converted in the form of clouds. This is what our scriptures mentioned. The sun evaporates, the moon helps in formation of clouds, and then later the clouds are dispersed on the land, and then there is rainfall. So in our whole existence on this planet, the sun and moon play a vital role for providing the most important nourishment for the entire living entity, that is water. And it comes to the agency of sun and moon. In fact, the scriptures go into more detail that when the moon collects those water which is evaporated by the sun, the moon, while converting into cloud, the water also preserves the essence of water with it. And it is that this essence which is converted with the moon and formed a kind of a nectar called as the Somaras. We heard about Somaras, right? Which the demigods enjoy as the heavenly elixir. So this has been the whole thing has come up into being by the sun's evaporation of water from the planet, and then the moon's collection and extracting the essence, and that's Somaras. So this Somaras is that enjoyed by the demigods. So this is something which the scriptures mention about the sun planet. Also, we know that many of our calendars, either the astronomical or the Vaishnava calendar or the Smarta calendar, they base their calculation on tithis, and some of them based on the sun calculation and some based on the moon calculation. Many times in our Krishna consciousness, we find we are celebrating a well-known festival on one particular day, but the same festival is celebrated by the outside world on another day. So many times devotees ask us that why that we have two different calendars, why not just celebrate the same festival on one particular day? So His Holiness Bhanu Maharaj mentions beautifully that His Holiness Bhanu Maharaj mentions that the calculations of a tithi is based on sun and the moon. So how the Vaishnava calendar operates is also given here, that when the most important part for Vaishnavas, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, in the whole day is the Brahma Muhurta part. We all know that we are encouraged to get up early in the morning and Brahma Muhurta, chant our rounds, perform spiritual duties. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was the main person behind this Gaudiya Vaishnava calendar, he said that our Gaudiya Vaishnava calendar is based on a tithi which comes in the Brahma Muhurta hour. So tithi generally lasts for many hours. So whatever tithi is in the Brahma Muhurta hour is the calculation, that whole day is that tithi, right? Now, the other calendars which work, they work on what is the tithi, which is the maximum duration of tithi between the sunrise and the sunset. So sunrise and sunset, which is around 12 hours approximate, if one tithi is a maximum on that day, so that tithi is counted as the tithi of that day. However, in our case, the Gaudiya Vaishnava calendar, even if the tithi is maximum between sunrise and sunset, but we follow that tithi which comes in the Brahma Muhurta, that means there will be some tithi which is the previous day falling over on the next day till Brahma Muhurta. We take that tithi. And this explains the reason behind calculation of some festivals on different days. So majority in the calendars outside, in the outside world, which solely base their calculation on the sun, they calculate based on the daytime tithi. But we, in the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, calculate a tithi based on the observance of a tithi in the Brahma Muhurta hours. So I think so maybe many of you may thinking, maybe not able to grasp what I'm saying, but there's some info which I got from Bhanu Maharaj's explanation about why we celebrate a particular festival on a day while the whole world celebrates on the other day. Anyways, for those who are interested can later contact me for more information. We move on for some more info. We all know from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam as well as from Puranas that there are two important dynasties which rule the planet Earth. The Sun dynasty and the Moon dynasty. Surya Vamsha and Chandra Vamsha. We see that how Lord appears either in Surya Vamsha or the Chandra Vamsha. When Supreme Personality of Godhead Lord Sri Krishna appeared, he appeared in the Chandra Vamsha, in the Yadu dynasty. That's mentioned in 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam towards the end. The 9th canto also mentions that Lord Ramachandra, he appeared in the Surya Vamsha, the Sun dynasty. So at one particular time on this whole creation, especially the Earth planet, there are two dynasties which are ruling. So we are talking about those years where the kings were ruling. Now it's all hodgepodge. But if we refer to Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll find Surya Vamsha and the Chandra Vamsha, right? So it is said that there is to maintain a sync between the two dynasties, the Surya Vamsha and the Chandra Vamsha. There is always to maintain cooperation of which particular king of this dynasty will rule. The Bhagavatam mentions that the rule when the Sun dynasty starts ruling on the Saptadweep. Now we heard about Saptadweep in the fifth canto, where the Jambudweep, the Plakshadweep, the Other deeps are there. 7 deeps, the 7 main islands. When the Sun dynasty king is ruling the 7 islands, that time the Moon dynasty king rules the Bharatvarsha. And when the Moon dynasty kings are ruling the Saptadvipa, the Sun dynasty ruler rules the Bharatvarsha. Of course, the name Bharatvarsha can be used with different annotations, like because now the Bharatvarsha, which we may call in the modern time Bharatvarsha, is just India, right? A small country. But previously, Bharatvarsha was the entire planet. And beyond the planet, there was also Bharat Khanda. So 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam mentions Bharatvarsha is not just one country or one the combination of few continents, but Bharat Khanda also refers to higher regions beyond the Himalayas, like that. So this is how the combination of both Sun dynasty and the Moon dynasty works. When Sun dynasty is ruling the Saptadvipa, then the Moon dynasty is ruling the Bharatvarsha, and vice versa. When the Moon dynasty is ruling the Saptadvipa, then the Moon dynasty is the Sun dynasty is ruling the Bharatvarsha. I'll give an example. King Yayati is from Moon dynasty, and Ambarish Maharaj is from the Sun dynasty, right? Now we hear from 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Yayati Maharaj was into sense gratification like anything. He married twice, he had many children, he was cursed, still he wanted to enjoy, and then he asked his young son to give his youth so that he could enjoy his family life. With all that sense gratification, suddenly we find it's not Yayati, I think some of them who is the king which was ruling, which was it's not Yayati exactly, it is Devyani, Sharmishta and Yadu. Can someone help me? What is that king name? Yadu. I just went out of my head. Anyone remembers that king?
Kacha Devyani?
Devyani and Sharmishta, but who was the husband of them? Any idea? I just named this.
King Yayati.
Yes, Prabhu, it's Yayati.
I think so. I'm right then. I got just confirmed with Yayati and Pururava. Anyways, Yayati, thank you very much for this. So Yayati Maharaj was the ruler of Chandra dynasty, and Ambarish Maharaj at the same time. Ambarish Maharaj was ruling the Moon. The Yayati was Moon dynasty and Ambarish Maharaj was Sun dynasty, right? So now, when Yayati was so much into sense gratification, suddenly we find Yayati became very Krishna conscious, and he and his wife became very great devoted. As a result, later Lord Shri Krishna came in his dynasty, took birth in the same dynasty as Yayati's dynasty. So Acharyas, they mentioned this beautiful point that Yayati Maharaj was ruling Bharatvarsha. That time Ambarish Maharaj from the Sun dynasty was ruling the Saptadvipa. And this time Ambarish Maharaj got a chance to meet Yayati Maharaj, and it was the association of Ambarish Maharaj that transformed the life of Yayati Maharaj, because of which he came from sense gratification into Krishna consciousness. Right? For any person to come from sense gratification to Krishna consciousness, it cannot be suddenly without any reason. There has to be a cause. So the cause for Yayati Maharaj transformation was Ambarish Maharaj, who was a simultaneous Sun dynasty ruler who was ruling the 7 Deepas. So we can see that how the Sun dynasty and the Moon dynasty together ruled this particular planet Earth, and Supreme Personality of God either appeared in Sun dynasty or appeared in the Moon dynasty. Yes. So now we will refer some analogies based on Srila Prabhupada's teachings about the sun god. Yes, the most famous analogy is this analogy which we always hear. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hoy Andhakar. Jaha Krishna Taha Nahi Mayar Adhikar. Right? So I think so. This is also the logo of our Back to God magazine, which mentions wherever there is Krishna, there is no darkness. So Krishna is compared to sun. As soon as sun appears, all the darkness vanishes. In the night time, we see that everything there is darkness, and suddenly in the morning, some initial rays of sun comes in the horizon, and everywhere there is light. So here Krishna is compared to sun. Actually, Krishna cannot be compared to sun. But when we are in this planet Earth and we have no understanding of Krishna consciousness in terms of the position of Krishna, the scriptures mention those focal points for us which we can easily relate to. There is a saying in the scriptures, there are different nyayas. Nyayas means there are different rules in the study of scriptures. One is called as Shakha Chandra Nyaya. Shakha means the branch of a tree, and Chandra means moon. So the analogy is given that when a small child is there in the arms of his mother, and the small child, the mother wants to show the small child the moon in the sky. Now there's a big sky and there's a moon in one corner of the sky, right? So if you ask the child, please turn your head on that side and see the moon, the child is very, very flickering by nature. So child will move head everywhere, will not able to see the moon properly. So Shaka Chandranaya mentions the mother brings the child to a particular position near a tree. And the tree is something which the child can easily see because it's very close by. And then she focuses the moon in such a way that the moon is seen between the branches of the tree. And the mother says, you can see the tree, my dear child? I said, yes, I can see. From the two branches, can you see? Just behind these two branches, there is a this white thing in the sky, that's the moon. So the mother is saying that behind the branches of the tree, there is moon. But in reality, the moon is not behind the branches. But because the child cannot focus and see the moon, so the mother has to show something which is very close to the child, the tree, which he can relate to. And through the tree, the child is able to understand something about the moon. So many of the examples in Bhagavatam and scriptures, they are given with some nature around us, which we can relate to. So here it is mentioned, Krishna Surya Sama. Krishna is compared to like sun. Krishna is more than a sun. But Krishna is compared to a sun for us because we do not have any understanding of what Krishna is all about. So Krishna is compared to sun, and just like sun arises, when sun appears, it dissipates all the darkness. So when Krishna consciousness appears in our heart, then all the misgivings, the misunderstanding and darkness, the illusion all goes out. So this is one analogy which we see often to our scriptures give in reference to the sun god. One more analogy which comes very often in our books is how the three realizations of God, right? Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. These are three realizations of God. And that is compared to sun. So Prabhupada often said, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan are like sunshine, sun globe and sun god. So the Brahman is the energy aspect of the Lord. So sunshine, the sunshine. We can see the sun through the sunshine. But if sunshine is there, there has to be sun globe as well. And if there is sun globe, there has to be a functioning deity of the sun, that is sun god. So Srila Prabhupada said, the Brahman aspect of the Lord is the initial aspect of God realization, which is energy, which is all-pervasive nature. But beyond the energy and all-pervasive nature is the source of the energy, and that is the sun planet, or in this sense, the Paramatma aspect of the Lord. The Lord in the heart, the Lord in the atomic fraction of all the universes. Lord is all-pervading. And then beyond that is actually the the place where the Supreme Lord resides, from where it happens altogether. And that is the Bhagwan realization. So here again, Srila Prabhupada gives the analogy of sun, and through sun we get to know about Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan. One example, another analogy which the scriptures mention is that of rising and setting of sun, right? It is said, with every rising and setting of the sun, we are one day closer to death. So when sun rises and sun sets, so when the sun rises or sun sets, many people take photographs, very nice scenery around. But those who are intelligent people, they become very conscious. Oh, I lost one more day in my life. I have very less time. I need to progress. With every rising and setting of the sun, we become one day close to death. Then another analogy which comes in scripture is that sun rises by its own will. One cannot demand the sun to rise by its own time. The sun rises by its own will. Similarly, Krishna, he comes by his own will, sweet will. When the sun rises, similarly, Krishna also rises in the horizon, performs pastimes, incarnation of Lord, different incarnations. And then later, when the pastime is over, by his own sweet will, the sun sets. And when the sun is rising, when the sun sets in one place, it is simultaneously rising in some other place. So when Lord appears in the horizon of particular era of the universe, where he's performing his pastimes, when the Lord closes his pastimes, he is appearing in some other part of the universe where he's starting his pastimes. Just like one cannot demand the sun to rise, one cannot demand Krishna to appear. Krishna will appear by his own sweet will. And this way, Krishna's appearance is compared to sun's appearance, Krishna's disappearance is compared to sun's disappearance. One more example which is given in Shastra of sun is, as we read in Bhagavad Gita, when the universal form of the Lord is shown to Arjuna by Krishna, sun and moon are compared to the eyes of the Lord. So the universal creation, the Vishwarup form of the Lord, the sun and moon become like the eyes of the Lord. We also read from Srimad Bhagavatam, this beautiful verse from the first canto, third chapter. Krishna Sudhama Upagate Dharma Jnana Divisaha Kalau Nashta Risham Esha Puranarko Dhunodita. So translation goes that the Bhagavat Puran has appeared as brilliant as the sun. Dharma Jnana Divisaha Kalau Nashta Risham Esha. So just like Krishna's appearance is compared to sun, even Bhagavatam's appearance is compared to as brilliant as sun. So when the sun appears, all misgivings, misunderstandings go away. So whenever the Bhagavatam appears in any sadhaka's life, by regular reading of Bhagavatam, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. So all the misgivings, all the confusions and doubts which we have in our Krishna consciousness, which arise day to day because of our living a close connection with this material world, all that doubts, all that ignorance will be dispelled just by coming in touch with the brilliant sun, which is compared to Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this way, there are a few analogies like this. Let us turn to some few stories of sun, which has some connection with Krishna consciousness or the devotees of Krishna. We hear this beautiful story of sun and Krishna using the sun to help Arjuna. Like this is from the pages of the Mahabharata. Lord Krishna was the chariot driver of Arjuna. And by trick and by evil means, the Kauravas had killed Arjuna's son, Abhimanyu. And one of the main person who was responsible for the killing Abhimanyu was Jayadratha, who had got a vow, who had got a boon that he will be very much on one particular day, he will become very heavy on the Pandavas that they cannot defeat him. So when Arjuna came to the camp in the night and came to know that his son Abhimanyu is dead, so Arjuna was told that Jayadratha was the cause of his son's death because he did not allow Yudhishthir, Bhimsen and other Pandavas to enter into the Chakra view while Abhimanyu himself alone went inside. So Arjuna, in very much anger, took a vow that he would kill Jayadratha the next day before the setting of sun, or else he will himself enter into fire. So Lord Sri Krishna immediately told Arjuna, what is this vow you have taken? Did you consult me before taking this vow? You should always consider. He always takes, like we see that Krishna always helps his devotee. Sometimes devotee takes up difficult project to serve Krishna, but ultimately Krishna has to help his devotee to serve the project, to help in the project. So Krishna said, you took a very difficult vow, but no problem, I am there, I am always there to help you. So let's try our best. So the next day happens when everyone comes to know from the Kaurava side that Arjuna has taken the vow, they go into defense. They know that if somehow Arjuna enters into fire, the war is over. So instead of attacking the army of Pandavas, the Kauravas go in defense. They keep Jayadratha far, far away. And between Jayadratha and Arjuna is a huge army of Kauravas, including Bhishma, Drona, and all these people. I think the Bhishma had already given up the war. Karna was there that time. So the Mahabharata mentions that from sunrise up till the moments of sunset, Arjuna was fighting his best. And the warriors were getting defeated by Arjuna, and you just keep going ahead and ahead. But all the warriors who were defeated, they would all come back and again fight with Arjuna, because they knew if somehow they can stop Arjuna from reaching Jayadratha, that would end of the whole game. So in this case, Krishna saw that Arjuna was trying his best, but he was not able to manage. Then finally Krishna came in. And Krishna very beautifully, by waving of his hand, sometimes it is mentioned Krishna blew his flute, whatever the reason may be, by the waving of his hand, the sun set in the horizon. And everyone in the Kauravas army, they were very happy. The sun has set, the game is over, and Arjuna will enter into fire. And they dropped down their defense. They were all enjoying the fun. And even that guy, Jayadratha, who was somewhere in one corner, who was hiding, he came out celebrating his victory, that I am victorious, now nothing will happen to me. And that time Krishna, he played the flute, or he just waved his hand. And again the sun appeared. So Krishna made the sun disappear for a short time. And it was seen as sunset by everyone. And Krishna waved his hand, again the sun was seen. The sun had not yet set. And Krishna told Arjuna, go ahead and kill Jayadratha. But Krishna told Arjuna that you have to kill Jayadratha in such a way that you have to hit his head by an arrow and make sure that you don't make that head fall down on the ground. So Arjuna said, how that will happen? Because if I hit him, if I kill him, then his head will definitely fall on the ground. So Krishna said, you throw the head in such a way towards the Himalayas where his father is doing meditation, Jayadratha's father, and make sure the head of Jayadratha should fall in the lap of his father. So Arjuna then immediately took his bow and arrow and shot an arrow, and Jayadratha's head was, it cut off the head of Jayadratha, and that head along with the arrow went long distance to Himalayas where Jayadratha's father was doing meditation, and that head fell on the lap of his father. And the father was doing meditation, deep meditation, to protect his son, give him powers. And when the father saw something has fallen on his lap with a lot of blood in it, he will threw the head down. And the head touched the ground, and the father's head, Jayadratha's father's head, broke into millions of pieces. So Jayadratha's father had taken a vow from the demigods that anyone who hits Jayadratha's head on the ground, his head will fall into or break into millions of pieces. So Krishna knew this, no one knew this. So Krishna arranged that Arjuna kill Jayadratha in such a way that Jayadratha's head falls in the lap of his father, and his father, he becomes instrumental in putting the head of his son on the ground. So this is one story of how Krishna arranged the sun to work as per his direction, where he covered the sun for some time. The another story which comes is the story of how the Pandavas were in exile. So the 5 Pandavas and Draupadi were sent to exile, and they were moving around in the forest. And every now and then, Yudhishthira Maharaj would see some great sages. But because he had nothing, he was a king that time initially. So whenever he would see a sage, he would welcome him very royally. But now he was in forest, hardly having anything for himself, always going hungry, nothing to eat in the forest. And here he was being like he was seeing the sages, but he had no option of welcoming them, treating them nicely. So Maharaj Yudhishthira became very morose. So one day, it is said, while doing his morning ablutions in the river, he offered prayers to Sun God. He offered prayers, and he mentioned to Sun God that I am unable to serve my duties. There are great sages in the forest whom I meet, but I am unable to serve them nicely. Is there any way I can keep my Kshatriya duties of serving great sadhus? The sun god became very pleased, and the sun god offered him Akshay Patra. So in some scriptures it is mentioned the Akshay Patra was given by Krishna to Draupadi, In some Puranas, it is mentioned the sun god offered this Akshay Patra to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So nonetheless, the idea is that Akshay Patra came to Yudhishthira Maharaj and the sun god told that this Akshay Patra can be given to Draupadi and she will offer all, whatever she wishes from the Akshay Patra, all these great dishes will come out from this Akshay Patra and she can feed the guest. And this can go along as long as she has not eaten that day. Once she eats that day, then the Akshay Patra will not work that day. Then the next day, again, the Akshay Patra will function in terms of giving whatever is required. So Draupadi in this way got the Akshay Patra and she was able to feed all the guests. However, one particular day, see, the devotees may get all the boons from demigods, but ultimately the devotee has to depend on Krishna, right? So now Draupadi had Akshay Patra and she was feeding all the great sadhus and rishis and swamis in the forest. But Duryodhan very intelligently sent Durvasa Muni and his associates exactly at time when Draupadi had eaten prasadam. So when Durvasa Muni came, 50,000 disciples, Yudhishthira Maharaj was very happy. He said, okay, Durvasa Muni, please come and take prasadam. Immediately told him. Durvasa Muni said, well, I'll take bath and come here. And Yudhishthira Maharaj turned to Draupadi and said, well, now you feed from Akshay Patra 50,000 disciples of Durvasa Muni. And Draupadi was very remorse. Said, I have already taken prasadam today. And now Akshay Patra will not generate anything for us. So she was crying. Even though they had Akshay Patra, now they were in dismay. They could not help. So that time they knew that, even though we have great help from great demigods, ultimately we have to turn our attention towards Krishna. So Draupadi thought of Krishna very intensely. And Krishna appeared there. And Krishna appeared and told Draupadi, Draupadi, I'm hungry. Please give me prasadam, food. And Draupadi said, now I'm for further disappointment because initially now I could not feed Durvasa Muni and his disciples. And now Krishna is asking food. So what should I do? So she started crying piteously. And Krishna said, why are you crying? And she said, I don't have anything to feed you. And Krishna said, you Akshay Patra. Oh, but I can't feed you from Akshay Patra because now I have taken prasadam. Okay, get the Akshay Patra now. So Draupadi got the Akshay Patra and somewhere in one corner there was one grain of rice which was still lying in the Akshay Patra. Krishna picked up that grain of rice and Krishna honored it. As soon as he honored it, Krishna was satisfied. And as soon as Krishna, Yasmin Tushte Jagat Tushte, when Krishna was satisfied, all the disciples of Durvasa Muni, including Durvasa Muni, they were belching and as if they were full. So when Bhimsen went to call Durvasa Muni, they all ran away from that place because they thought if Bhimsen comes and he starts feeding us prasadam, then it will be too much for us. So in this way, we can see that how sun god came into help for the devotees and later Krishna helped Draupadi and the Pandavas by himself taking one morsel of grain from Akshay Patra. There is one more story which comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which mentions about the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean of milk. The churning of the ocean of milk, Lord appears multiple times in different incarnations. Lord appears as Ajita. The Lord appears as tortoise incarnation, Kurma Avatar. The Lord appears as in the form of Dhanvantri. And then finally, in the end, when the demigods and the demons are fighting, and the demons carry the pot of nectar, running away from not giving any share to demigods, the demigods offer prayer to Lord Narayan. And finally, the last incarnation of the Lord, which comes during the ocean of milk churning, is Mohini Murti. And she comes and she entices the demons and she convinces them, let the demigods first have their share. The nectar is there. I can see the nectar. The essence, the thick part of nectar is below in the pot, and upstairs is just the watery portion. So I'll give the watery portion to the demigods. In the end, you will get the thick nectar. You will enjoy like that. So Mohini Murti was able to convince the demons. So now when Mohini Murti is feeding all the demigods on one side, the demons are sitting on the other side. She's feeding nectar to demigods, and she's enticing her glance on the demons to keep them away from all this, to keep them all bewildered. So there were these two demons, Rahu and Ketu, who understood this whole conspiracy. So they took the form of demigods, and they entered and sat in the line where prasad distribution, the nectar distribution going on the demigod's side. So they were sitting next to sun and the moon planet, sun god and moon god. So Mohini Murti came and offered nectar to Rahu and Ketu. And when the Rahu and Ketu offered nectar, it was sun and moon who understood that hey, these are new guys. You know, we have never seen them in our demigod among the demigods. And they immediately told Mohini Murti, these are not demigods, these are demons. This is Rahu and Ketu. And that time Mohini Murti takes out her Sudarshan Chakra and cuts off the head and the belly. So Ketu had drunk the nectar, and the nectar had gone till the belly part of Ketu. And when the Rahu had drunk the nectar, it had just entered into his mouth. So Mohini Murti cut down the belly part of Ketu, and Mohini Murti cut the head of Rahu. So the head of Rahu became immortal, and the belly part of Ketu had become immortal. So they say that even today also this Rahu and Ketu are the planets which come and disturb the sun and moon and causes eclipse. So here we can see that how sun and the moon planets were responsible for informing the Supreme Personality of Godhead about this intermission of these two demons who came as demigods. And as a result of that, the Lord allowed them to be part of the universal creation by having two more extra planets as Rahu and Ketu, very inauspicious planets, but they also play their vital roles in the solar system. So these are some beautiful points which came from Srimad Bhagavatam and Prabhupada's books about the analogies, the info, and the story of Krishna consciousness with sun. One last information which I wanted to share with all of you, which is a modern information. We hear from the great British Empire, right? They would say, when the British was ruling all over the world, they would say the sun never sets on the British Empire, right? And then Srila Prabhupada said, they were all saying sun never sets on the British Empire. And Prabhupada would joke and say, the sun never rises in the British Empire now, you know. In London, in England, always there was scarcity of sunrise, always gloomy. The sun rises very, very less there. Prabhupada was in London, and someone asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, what do you think of London? And Prabhupada said, London is hell. He was shocked. Prabhupada meant London is hell because there was no sunshine. The sun would not shine for a long, long time. The subterranean planets, hellish planets, there is no sunshine, right? London is hell. Anyways, British Empire, the sun never sets on British Empire. Recently, one devotee was mentioning that Srila Prabhupada preached all over the world Krishna consciousness. And by his great blessings and his foresightness, we have temples of ISKCON all over the world. So while the British did make a big statement about their empire, that sun never sets on British Empire, if you see in ISKCON, every day in the morning, every ISKCON center, there is Mangalarti morning, 4:30 a.m. or 5 a.m., the time, whatever it may be. And every time there is a Mangalarti, there is the blowing of conch shell. So the devotee was mentioning that if you see that the sun never sets on British Empire, similarly we can mention that how the ISKCON empire is there all over the world, and every time down the line, throughout the day, somewhere down the line, there is always some shankh blowing in the globe, enthralling the presence of the deities and the Mangalarti happening. That means, just for example, now we have our daytime here, like where I'm in India now, daytime. So it's like my evening 5:30, something like that. But somewhere in the globe, now it's 4:30 in the morning and they're blowing conch shell. At my 6:30 p.m., 1 hour later, there will be 4:30 a.m. somewhere else in the globe and they'll blow conch shell. So throughout the 24 hours we are living, wherever we live, there is somewhere the conch shell blowing every now and then, heralding the presence of Mangalarti, the presence of the deities. Srila Prabhupada, the British tried to get sovereignty of the whole universe by their power, by their army. But Srila Prabhupada, with his Sankirtan army, with his Sankirtan movement, he has got the presence of Krishna consciousness all over the world, and somewhere down the line, some place, some continent, some country, there is constantly the conch shell blowing and heralding the opening of the deities and the starting of Mangalarti. So these are few points which I could find from the scriptures for all of your pleasure and service. At this time, we can take some questions if there are, or we can end our class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful enlightening class. Thank you, Prabhuji. So you very well explained about the importance of sun and how it's very important, how Krishna and Lord Ram has descended, and you gave some stories, interpretations from Srimad Bhagavatam, and sun analogies also you gave, like saying about the Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan, and the pastime of Mohini Murti you gave. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such an enlightening class. And the forum is now open for question and answers. Devotees, please go ahead with questions or comments or realizations.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances on glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for all the stories connected to Surya Dev. Prabhu, one basic I forgot, like how did Draupadi got that Akshay Patra from Surya Dev? She did some austerity? Or you mentioned I missed it, Prabhu.
Yeah. So it was Yudhishthir Maharaj who got the Akshay Patra from the sun god, and it was given to Draupadi. The reason was Yudhishthir Maharaj was in the forest traveling with his wife and other brothers, and he would always come across great sages in the forest, and he was unable to serve them properly. So he was always feeling morose on that part. When he was a king, he would always get opportunity and he would serve the great rishis and the great sages nicely. So with that understanding, he was offering oblations to sun in the morning while doing his puja, Sandhya Vandanam, and that time he offered prayers if sun can help him. The sun god gave him the Akshay Patra, and he told that you can give it to your wife and she can feed everyone till she eats by herself. And then that particular day, the Akshay Patra won't give food.
Oh, yes, Prabhu, you meant. I'm so sorry for making you repeat, Prabhu. But I could not connect. That was the blessing as the Akshay Patra. I missed that point. So sorry, Prabhu, for that. But thank you, Prabhu. We'll not forget, hopefully. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Once again, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
But I'm thank you for your question because I remembered one more story which I did not tell you. Can I tell that story?
Please, Prabhu, please.
See, we go on Vrindavan Yatra, right? In Vrindavan, we go to many places. There is Madan Mohan temple, the Radha Madan Mohan temple. And there is this Dwadash Aditya Tila, where Krishna was in the water of Yamuna and he was fighting with the Kaliya snake. And then later he subdued Kaliya and sent him away. So Krishna was wet for a long time, so he was shivering. So he wanted to get some warmth. So he came near Madan Mohan temple, that place, and he stood there and invoked the sun god. So today in our translations, we heard about sun god traveling with different associates in different months. So when sun travels in different months, the sun gets different names. And this way there are 12 names of sun. So Krishna, when he invoked the presence of sun, all his 12 names of sun or Dwadash Aditya, they came together and they gave the heat of their rays on Krishna's body so that he gets cool. He gets warm from the shivering he felt because of entering into Yamuna. So that happened because of the service of 12 suns, which is mentioned in this particular verses which were taken. And then Krishna, when he was getting the sun bath, transcendental sun bath, Krishna also perspired because it was suddenly the sun was shining too high, too big. So Krishna perspired for some time. So when Krishna perspired, some water fell from his head down from the hill, and it formed a kunda, a tirtha called as Praskandan Tirtha. So that tirtha is now not there, but it is mentioned that just below the Dwadash Aditya theme, there is Praskandan Tirtha where Krishna perspired after the 12 suns gave him warmth. It's just extraordinary about the story. Thank you for your question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the beautiful story again. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm happy to see you after a long time, Prabhu. So, my question is of two types. One is you mentioned about how the monarch who rule the world, they are either from the Moon dynasty or the Sun dynasty. So, is there any remnant of this dynasty on planet presently? And that is one. And what is the connection of our Gayatri with like the chanting in the morning, rising of the sun, and in the afternoon, when the sun is at. So, what is the connection with the Gayatri and the sun also? Please, if you can throw more light on this. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you for that question. So the first question is the Sun dynasty and the Moon dynasty, right? So it is said that as the Kali Yuga comes in, then both the dynasties, they disappear. Because in Kali Yuga, Bhagavatam mentions that the thieves become the king, right? Dasyu, Rajeshu Dasyu. That means the Rajas, they become plunderers. They are plunderers, they out of democracy or force, they start ruling. So it is said in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, while the different aspects of Kali Yuga are mentioned, that when Kalki appears, right? When Kalki appears and he finishes the Kali Yuga part, while that is happening, there are two kings who are very pious. They are still somewhere hiding or doing the meditation in some part of the globe. One is from Sun dynasty and one from Moon dynasty. So they are waiting for the Kali Yuga to end. And when Kali Yuga will end by the mercy of Kalki Dev, Lord Kalki, then these two kings will come out again and they will start ruling. So that information is given in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about where are the two dynasties now. The two dynasties are there in form of two kings, and eventually the two kings will come out. But in Kali Yuga, these two kings, the two dynasties don't exist now. Most of the kings in Kali Yuga are Varna Sankaras or plunderers or thieves. So all, as Prabhupada said, this is all by the new system of votes, right? So you choose, like Prabhupada said, that if that the whole world is full of animalistic people, and they choose one animalistic from the horde of animalistic people choose, then ultimately they will get an animal on the throne, right? So Prabhupada would say that electing by this system of voting is like sometimes getting a lion as a king and throwing him down, and getting a tiger as a king, throwing him down, and getting a fox as a king. Either way, all are dangerous animals. So we have a horde of rulers in Kali Yuga, and we just best use of bad bargain we are making, but they are not. None of them are very pious or as per scriptures ruling their part of the world. So that is one aspect of where the Sun and Moon dynasty kings, they are hiding somewhere, and then eventually they will come out. Regarding the Gayatri Mantra, yes, the first mantra of Gayatri refers to oblations to the Sun God, right? And why do we chant Gayatri Mantra 3 times? So if you see the 3 times in the day, there is a change, or also called as Sandhya. Sandhya also means transition period. So early morning, from night to day, morning it happens, that's one transition. And from morning to afternoon is another transition, 12 o'clock. And again in the evening, from day to night, another transition. So whenever there is a transition phase, it's a very inauspicious phase. To make this phase to make best use of this phase, all the scriptures have recommended to chant Gayatris during these phases. And also if you see in deity worship also, all the artis are performed during that time. So the devotees and people can engage in positive activity of Krishna consciousness while this phase, which is an auspicious phase, is happening. So the morning Mangalarti is there, or Darshanarti is there as per the situation in the country, or the Rajbhog Arti is there, and Sandhya Arti is there. So when devotees perform Kirtan during Sandhya Arti, Rajbhog and morning time, then they can avoid being affected by this change of phase transition, which is very inauspicious. And therefore devotees also chant Gayatri Mantra during these 3 times. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very good.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Devotees, if any more questions, please go ahead. or realizations or comments, please go ahead. So in the chat, Vanita Mataji has told very nice class, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot. And then Prabhuji, I have one question. Like you were saying about the Mohini Murti, like cutting the head of Rahu and Ketu. Actually, it was Rahu who came and sat in between sun and moon and was drinking the nectar. And after that, Mohini Murti, when she knew it, she cut the head of Rahu, right? And by then the nectar has gone in the throat, and since it has gone till the throat, only the head is immortal, and the body is gone, like it's become Ketu, like that. Some pastimes are there. So but in your class now you were saying that it has gone to the belly of Ketu. The nectar has gone to the belly of Ketu. So
yeah,
how it is, Prabhuji?
Yeah, thank you for that question, because yes, there are two different versions on that. When we hear Bhagavatam, we hear about one demon drinking the nectar. The Puranas, which confer with the nakshatras and the different types of planets, they give information about two demons, the Rahu and Ketu. So yeah, that can kalpa Veda. There can be difference in terms of different eras of this pastime. As you mentioned, Rahu is the head is become immortal, and they say Rahu has a human head and a snake torso, snake body, and Ketu has the snake head and the human torso. So these are the two inauspicious planets which came. So either it can be both way, where one demon had taken two forms, Rahu and Ketu, or it can be Rahu and Ketu separately as two demons. It can be both ways, depending on which particular Puranas we refer, or which particular kalpa. Because this kind of pastimes is not happening just once. It happens many times. So different times may have different what we say. There may be slight changes and variations in this particular pastimes. But nonetheless, whatever you said is also true.
Okay, I just heard from various speakers, Prabhuji. That's what I asked. And Prabhuji, one more question is like you said that when the sun sets and sun rises, it's like Krishna has, like when sun is setting, Krishna will wind up the pastime and go. It's like that one analogy you gave. So, and you were saying like Krishna will end the pastime in this universe and then he will continue the pastime in the other universe. So, but is it not that simultaneously the pastimes are happening in various universes?
Not necessary. When you're talking one particular incarnation or all incarnations?
No, Krishna, only Krishna I'm asking.
While Krishna is in one universe, Krishna brings all his associates, Parshadas in that universe, and performs pastimes. And then he goes to the next one. And in this way, Krishna's incarnations keep going. Krishna keeps going in different universes. So it's not like Krishna has, if Krishna is performing a pastime now, simultaneously same pastime will be performed by Krishna in some other universe. It doesn't happen like that.
Okay. So then only other incarnations will be going on in other universes. It's like that, Prabhuji.
Yeah, but it's not exactly like we may understand. Like I told you, that Shaka Chandrana is something like through the tree we get the understanding of moon. So this analogy is given: the sun sets in one place and rises in another place. But it may not exactly fitting what that analogy is. It gives an idea about how the Krishna's entourage moves in different planets, different universes. So the exact setting which I think your understanding is, I'm not exactly fitting that exact understanding that now Krishna has stopped here, so it is now in this universe, the next universe, It's not like that. It's an analogy. So that analogy is given in a way that we can understand. There are Krishna's different role in different universe works. Srila Prabhupada once mentioned that when a devotee leaves his body and is fit to go back to Godhead, before that he gets a chance to do apprenticeship. You know what is apprenticeship? That means he gets chance to first check and do a training before he actually enters Krishna's pastimes. So Prabhupada mentions that he goes to that universe where Krishna is now performing his pastimes. So he enters into this Bhauma Leela of Krishna in that universe. Generally, a soul, when he enters into one universe, he remains in that universe till he goes back to Earth. So while he go, otherwise he just cannot leave this universe. A soul cannot transmigrate from one universe to another. Everything is within this universe. So when the soul goes back to Earth, let's say Goloka Vrindavan, before that, he gets apprenticeship into that particular universe where Krishna is performing pastimes, Bhauma Leela, and then he becomes one of the associates of Krishna and gets a first-hand experience of being with Krishna, playing the pastimes of Krishna, again connecting back fully with Krishna, and then from there he goes back to Earth with Krishna. So it is that. So things are very quite not as easy to understand with the details of these pastimes, but nonetheless we get some understanding that how Krishna's pastimes and functions work within the universal structure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for that clarity. Hare Krishna. So, devotees, Harini Devi Mataji, please go ahead.
Can we have this as the last question?
Yeah, okay, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, you say that the soul cannot transmigrate from one universe to another universe. But then at the time of Pralay, right, when there is creation over again, when the soul is sent back again to the material world, then does it come again to the same universe, or does it go to the other universe?
Thank you for the good question. So there are different types of pralay. There is naimittic pralay. There's a pralay which happens only on the earth planet. There is a pralay second which happens only till Swarga Loka, and there is last pralay where Brahmaji also. The last one is when Brahmaji also dies, and the universe winds up. Right? Whatever it may be, all that it is mentioned that when Brahmaji is, like for example in the case of Brahmaji, when Brahmaji's night happens and everything is gone away, so all the souls within this universe, they remain in unconscious state within the body of the universal form of the Lord Vishnu.
Yeah.
Like that. So finally when the universe also winds up, and then in that case you're talking about the next universe coming in, right? You're talking about Brahmaji's last state, the end of Brahmaji's whole life. That time, what happens to the soul? Is that the question you're asking, or you're talking about in general?
In general, because see, first, one of the pralay is when Brahma goes to sleep, right? This is a temporary pralay. The permanent one is when Brahma dies at 100 years, right? And then again over there is creation over again. So in both cases, the soul, does it come back to the same universe or does it go to another universe? That's my question.
Yeah.
If the soul has not, let's say if the soul has not obtained liberation, then definitely he will be coming back to the material world, isn't it? So when it comes back to the material world, does it enter the same universe that it was previously, or does it go into another universe? That's my question, Prabhuji.
So the soul enters the same universe again, till the universe itself is gone away, right? The universe itself has gone away. Brahmaji's life is over. Everything is gone away. Then when the creation again happens, then he will get chance again to start into a new universe. So that's like very, very long time. But primarily when the scriptures mention about one universe, it is a whole day of Brahma. And we can know the whole day of Brahma is quite large, enormous. It takes 1,000 yuga cycles for one day of Brahma. So that itself is a very huge understanding for us. So within that time, until the end of Brahmaji's 100 years, the living entity lives in the same universe with the same Brahma, 400 Brahma or 800 Brahma. Beyond that, if some soul remains beyond that,
you're muted.
I'm sorry. Beyond, if some soul remains beyond 100 years of Brahmaji, then I think there must be a special soul who continues to remain in this material world, doesn't get reformed.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji, for your valuable time. And Prabhuji, you're muted.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for giving your valuable time and association, and we want your future association also. So, devotees, let's pay our obeisances to Prabhuji. Vancha kalpatrupasya kripa sindhu Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrindiki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Randraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Baladev Prabhu ki
Jai.
Thank you for joining the call.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.